Hey guys, what's going on? Andrew coming at you. In this one, I'm going to give my thoughts on what's happening in Afghanistan after living in Sweden. And, when you're in the States and war happens or something happens, it's so easy to be kind of stuck in your little bubble. But definitely living in Europe, I've had more conversations with people that have actually come from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from Syria, basically a lot of the countries that we were involved in militarily. And it's definitely changed my perspective on things. But one thing that really kind of bugs me is when 9/11 happened in the United States and it ended, there was this togetherness that I can't explain. The country really came together, and there really wasn't like Democrat or Republican, white, black, you name it. We were so united. And I remember it being like such a special time, but at the same time, we were so upset and so angry, and we wanted to get, bin Laden. And when this occurred and happened, what makes me sad is I feel like we were kind of led into two conflicts, and our unitedness was taken advantage of. And in both cases, Afghanistan and Iraq, the level of support was super, super high. Our media was all about it. It didn't matter if you were a Democrat or Republican, you were all about it. And we got into a 20-year conflict, and we are seeing the results of this. But to me, this goes back even further. And in the 1960s, we were warned by President Eisenhower about the military-industrial complex.
We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. We annually spend on military security alone more than the net income of all United States corporations. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
And I think that that's one of the biggest issues with the United States as far as being in a lot of different conflicts. So, the military-industrial complex is simply the business of war. And you have a lot of companies and corporations that have a lot of money, a lot of political influence. And, war is big business in a sense. Someone's got to build the bombs, the planes, the missiles. Then you drop the bombs, planes, and missiles, and then you rebuild the area. Not to mention, Afghanistan and Iraq have a lot of natural resources. In some cases, oil, if you would look at Iraq. And I think that we were definitely a bit motivated by that. And it's interesting as well, because if you even look at 9/11, really, almost everybody was Saudi Arabian. And, of course, we didn't do anything with Saudi Arabia at the time. So I'm really hopeful that this conflict ending here will end the American imperialism in the Middle East. And I do say it's imperialism a little bit because we end up going in these countries, we're there for such a long time, and now we're leaving, and it's just sad to see. It's like we made no difference. Not to mention that we spent over, $4 trillion, around $5 trillion if you include like Iraq and Afghanistan. And when you start really looking at that money, I've had a lot of people be like, why don't you have universal health care in the United States? Why don't you have universal or free education? Well, I would say Iraq and Afghanistan in that case, because if you really look at it, the amount of money we spent on Afghanistan alone would have wiped student loan debt for every American in the United States. Wiped it clean. And then if you start looking at Iraq or combining that money, we could have substantially dropped the cost of healthcare. And as I always say, if the American government was paying for healthcare, you would see the prices of things drop. If they were the ones fitting the bill, you'd see the medication costs drop. And it's my personal opinion that we've seen America get more divided and more upset. And I think this has a lot to do with the middle class feeling like they got screwed over. And it's sad for me to see, because in 2001 we were so united, and here this conflict happened, and now Americans are worse off 20 years later. Not to mention that the damage and destruction that we did in Afghanistan and Iraq. And I'm sure there was maybe some good that occurred, and this has nothing to do with people that served in the military, because they were just doing their job, and I'm sure they served bravely, and I just feel bad for them, because I feel like they come back, they're not taken care of enough, they had PTSD, and then on top of that, I mean, how could you say that we made any difference or that it was worth it? I mean, if you look at Iraq and Afghanistan, what a waste. It is exactly like, Vietnam over again. And I hope people can wake up to this. We do not need to spend as much money on the military. We just don't. It's silly at this point. We need to spend more money on ourselves and helping our own country. We need to stay out of foreign conflicts for the time being. And I don't really think this is the fault of Biden or another president. It was definitely messy. It could have been handled better for sure. But I think it was going to be a messy situation no matter who was in office. And yeah, it's sad. It's really sad. Afghanistan won. But the last thing is, when I say that we shouldn't meddle in any of these things, I mean, really the United States helped fund Taliban and train them to fight the Russians. And then it just blows up in our face. And then now they have our weapons, they have our materials. And for what? What was the purpose of this? And then we can say, the Afghanistan people don't want to fight for themselves. But I mean, we were an occupying force there. We just were. And how real strong was that government? Was it just a puppet government set up by the United States? There was probably stability because we were there. So I don't know. I'm not happy that the Taliban has taken over Afghanistan, but maybe it could be a complete mess. But maybe Afghanistan will be more stable. I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sad, I'm depressed about it, but not for, I'm depressed and sad for, like, the Afghanistan people, and then I'm upset and depressed for the military that served there, and then just the American people that are so divided and angry right now, when literally everybody got screwed there, by the military-industrial complex, by the politicians that are war hawks. I mean, even if I look at, like, the news in the United States, people are so mad about what's happening in Afghanistan, they're almost like trying to push for us to go back in or to start fighting, and it's like, I don't understand why we have such a war mentality sometimes. It's enough. Enough people have been killed in these conflicts, so I don't know. I'm depressed about this one, guys. I just wanted to give you my thoughts. You can give me yours if you want below, and I will see you in the next video. Hej då!